Rain on glass. That's the first thing I register every morning before my brain fully boots up. The sound of water sliding down the 42nd floor window of Harlow and Associates, streaking the city below into something impressionist and unreal. I've been the records archivist here for 3 years. I know this sound the way I know my own heartbeat. Steady, predictable. Background. My name is Nora Vance, and I am, professionally speaking, a ghost. I move through this building with the particular invisibility of someone whose job is to know everything and be noticed by no one. I catalog, I cross-reference, I file. I maintain the institutional memory of a company that would collapse without me and has never once sent me a birthday card. I arrive at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes before anyone who matters. I make coffee for the executive floor, not because it's my job, but because the machine confuses people, and watching a senior partner wrestle with an espresso pod at 8 a.m. gives me a small, private joy that sustains me through the rest of the day. It's during one of these small, private joys that I first see her. Or rather, I first see the effect of her. The way the entire office rearranges itself. The way Priya from HR suddenly sits up straighter. The way Martin from legal forgets mid-sentence what he was saying and turns toward the elevator like something magnetic is pulling him. The way even the ambient noise of the floor, keyboards, phone calls, the low hum of capitalism, drops half a register. I don't turn around immediately. I wait 2 full seconds, long enough to make sure my face is doing nothing interesting, and then I turn. Celeste Harlow, CEO, founder's daughter, the woman whose name is on the building I spend more hours in than my own apartment. She's wearing charcoal gray, a shade that shouldn't make someone look like they're made of weather, but does. She's talking to someone, or rather, someone is talking to her, and she is listening with the kind of attention that makes the speaker feel simultaneously important and terrified. Her hair is dark and pulled back precisely, no strand out of place. Her hands are at her sides, perfectly still, and I think she learned to do that. Someone taught her that stillness. You don't arrive at that kind of composure naturally. She doesn't look at me. She never looks at me. I pour myself a coffee I don't need and carry it back to the archives like nothing happened. The archives are in the basement. Naturally. My life, described clinically, 28 years old. Renting a studio apartment that costs more than it should because of a radiator that sounds like it's trying to confess something. A cat named Index, who tolerates me. A very specific talent for finding documents that do not want to be found. A somewhat less specific talent for finding things in my personal life that are worth staying for. I have been in love exactly once. It ended the way things end when one person thinks they're building a future and the other person thinks they're just passing through. I learned something from that. I am better at cataloging other people's stories than living my own. I am, in this way, the perfect archivist. Tuesday, 11:47 p.m. The building is empty except for me and whatever security guard is watching cameras on the ground floor, and definitely not watching them. I'm finishing an inventory of the Meridian acquisition files, 12 years of documents that were digitized badly and need a human hand to sort through. When I find it, not in a box, not in a folder, under a false bottom in the 3rd drawer of cabinet row 7, tucked beneath a faded envelope of 1990s real estate correspondence, is a book. Small. Bound in deep burgundy leather, soft from handling. No label, no name. It falls open in my hands like it's been waiting. The handwriting is small and precise and tilts slightly to the left. The ink is dark blue. I read the first line before I can stop myself. I don't know who I am when no one is watching me perform being me. My heart does something complicated. I close the book. I should put it back. I should absolutely, unquestionably, professionally and ethically put it back. I put it in my bag. If you've ever picked up something that clearly wasn't yours and told yourself you'd only look for a second, subscribe now, because I am about to make every single wrong decision in perfect sequence. The next morning I arrive at 7:30, 15 minutes earlier than usual, which tells you something about my psychological state. I tell myself I'm going to return the diary. I'm going to put it back in cabinet row 7, replace the false bottom, and pretend I found nothing. This is the rational plan. This is the only plan. Instead, I make coffee and read 4 more pages in the archive room with the door closed. The diary has no date, no name. The entries are irregular. Some days 3 pages, Some days, a single sentence. They're not confessions exactly. They're more like arguments. Arguments the writer is having with herself, testing ideas against her own resistance, circling something she can't quite name. I keep choosing harder things. I don't know if it's ambition or punishment. There is one woman in this building who has never asked me for anything. I've been trying to figure out if she doesn't need anything, or if she simply learned not to want it. I can't tell which possibility unsettles me more. I stop reading. One woman in this building who has never asked for anything. That could be anyone. That is absolutely not definitely about me. I close the diary. I hide it under my lunch. The meeting is not something I'm supposed to be in. I'm delivering documents, physical copies of the Meridian acquisition summary that legal needs by 10 a.m. And the conference room on the 42nd floor should, by all logic, be empty. The meeting wasn't on the shared calendar. The doors are frosted glass. I don't hear voices until I'm already pushing through the handle. 12 faces turn toward me. Celeste Harlow, at the head of the table, does not turn. She's standing, one hand resting on the table, looking at a projected spreadsheet. She says without moving, "Close the door." I close the door. From inside, a mistake. The kind you make when your nervous system betrays you, and your body just keeps going on autopilot while your brain is still 3 seconds behind. The 12 faces are still looking at me. The spreadsheet on the wall is a quarterly report with numbers I am absolutely not cleared to see. I set the documents on the side table, quiet, precise, purposeful, and say, "Meridian acquisition summary, legal requested by 10. I address this to the middle distance, not to her. A pause. Then Celeste says, "Stay." Not a question, not a request. I stay. The meeting is about the Meridian acquisition going wrong, not catastrophically, not yet, but wrong in the specific way that expensive things go wrong when someone hasn't been paying close enough attention to the documents underneath the documents. I know this because I spent 11 days sorting those files. I know this because I found the discrepancy on day 9 and flagged it in a memo that I sent to 3 people who did not respond. I know this because I am very good at my job and very bad at making anyone care that I'm good at my job. I sit in the chair nearest the door with the documents on my lap, and I watch them argue past the actual problem for 22 minutes. Someone has a theory about the Meridian CFO. Someone else has a theory about the broker. The theories are confident and wrong. The issue isn't the CFO, I say. Silence. I have, in 3 years at this company, never spoken in a room above the 28th floor. Celeste Harlow turns. It's the first time she's looked directly at me. Really looked. The kind of look that measures something. "Go ahead," she says. I open the documents on my lap and I walk them through it. The discrepancy in the 2019 addendum. The clause that supersedes the main contract. The exposure they haven't accounted for. I have the page numbers memorized. I cite them. It takes 4 minutes. When I finish, the room is quiet in a different way than before. "Why wasn't this flagged?" Celeste asks. Not to me, to the room. Marcus from legal says, "We didn't receive." "I sent a memo on the 14th, I say. To Marcus, and to Priya, and to the external counsel contact. I can forward the original if the timestamps are in question. The silence has texture now. Marcus opens his mouth. I watch Celeste watch him open his mouth. Something moves across her face. Quick, controlled, gone. "Thank you," she says. "To me, only to me. That will be all." I leave the documents on the table and walk out. My hands are steady. My heart is not. In the elevator, I press the button for the basement. The doors close. I realize I never told her my name. I also realize, with the particular horror of someone whose brain is several steps ahead of her permission, the diary entry. There is one woman in this building who has never asked me for anything. I count the floors going down. I count them very carefully. I don't read more of the diary that night. I put it on top of my refrigerator where I have to make a deliberate effort to reach it, and I feed Index and I eat leftover rice, and I watch 30 minutes of a documentary about competitive orchid cultivation before I accept that I am not going to stop thinking about this. I get the diary. I read it standing at the kitchen counter with my coat still on. The entries span, I calculate from internal references, approximately 8 months. They are not romantic. They are not even particularly intimate in the way that word usually means. They're more like field notes from someone studying herself from the outside, trying to understand her own patterns the way a scientist studies a system she's trapped inside. I gave a speech at the industry gala last week. 300 people. I was told it was excellent. I don't remember giving it. I remember thinking, who is she? This version of me that can do this. I watched her from somewhere behind my own eyes and I thought, I should learn her name. There is, woven through the entries at irregular intervals, a figure the writer calls only W. W called again. I didn't pick up. I should pick up. I know what I'm doing and I'm doing it anyway. W says she worries that I'm not happy. I said I'm not unhappy. There's a difference. She said yes, and that's the problem. I don't know what to do with that. W left. I didn't ask her to stay. I told myself it was because I wasn't sure I wanted her to. I think actually it was because I was certain I did. And that was worse. I close the diary around midnight. Then I open it again. Then I close it. I recognize, in trouble. On Thursday, the intercom on my desk crackles. It's a relic, an actual physical intercom, because the basement is considered infrastructure and not worth upgrading. Ms. Vance. I have never heard my name on this intercom. Ms. Harlow would like to see you. 42nd floor, now. I look at Index, who is sitting on a box of 2018 tax correspondence. Index blinks. Not helpful, I tell him. Her office is what I expected, and nothing like what I expected. The glass, the view, the clean geometry of power, yes. But also, 24 plants in varying states of thriving. A drafting table in the corner covered in handwritten notes, not a computer. A shelf of actual physical books with cracked spines. A coffee mug that says world's okayest everything and has been there long enough to leave a ring on the shelf. She's standing at the window when I come in. She doesn't turn immediately. Outside, the city is doing its thing, gray and enormous and indifferent. I looked you up, she says. Okay. You have 3 commendations in your file and 2 ignored escalations, including the Meridian memo. Why didn't you escalate further when the first attempts were ignored? I consider the honest answer. The honest answer is because I have learned, in 3 years here, that escalating is what you do when you believe someone will listen, and I stopped believing that approximately halfway through year 2. I say, I sent it to the appropriate people. Escalating above them without a clear failure point would have been overstepping. She turns. Her eyes are very dark. She looks at me the way she looked at me in the conference room. That measuring look, like she's running a calculation I'm not privy to. That's a very careful answer, she says. It's the accurate one. Something almost happens on her face. What would the honest answer be? I don't respond. Not because I lack courage, or not only that. Because the honest answer is, I stopped believing it would matter. And that answer would tell her something about me that she doesn't need to know. The silence lasts long enough for me to hear the city. I'm moving you to the executive floor, she says. Temporary liaison for the Meridian remediation, 6 to 8 weeks. I'm an archivist. You're someone who reads documents carefully and tells the truth about what they say. I need that more than I need an archivist right now. I should say yes. This is a promotion. Functionally. This is good. Instead, I say, I'll need to know my archive access is preserved. The basement collection is mid-inventory. Someone needs to maintain the protocol or 3 years of work gets corrupted. She blinks. First time I've seen her blink in a way that suggests actual surprise. That's your condition? It's my requirement, yes. Another, almost something on her face. She nods once. Fine. Monday. I walk to the elevator. I don't breathe properly until the doors close. Friday night I read the last entry in the diary. It's dated, finally, 7 months ago. 3 sentences. I lost something today, not sure if it was a thing or a part of myself I'd been carrying in that thing. I keep thinking about what it means to hold on to something carefully for years and then just not know where you put it. I sit with that for a long time. Then I do the thing I have been carefully not doing for 5 days. I look at the inside front cover. There, in the same small, precise handwriting, almost invisible against the dark binding, C.H. I put the diary on the table. I look at it. Index comes to sit beside me. We look at it together. I've made an error, I tell him. He has no useful comment. Monday, executive floor. My new desk is near enough to Celeste's office that I can hear through her closed door when she's in a meeting and when she's alone. I'm not cataloging this information on purpose. My brain is just very good at patterns. She is, up close, even harder to read. She moves through the floor with the same stillness she has everywhere. Not slow, exactly. More like gravity works differently near her. She speaks to people briefly and precisely. She delegates without micromanaging. She asks questions that have clearly been thought about before they're asked. She drinks exactly 3 cups of coffee before noon and then switches to water. She keeps the door to her office open by default and closes it for calls she doesn't want overheard. I file all of this away without intending to. My brain, again. Very bad at selective pattern recognition. The meridian work is real work, good work, actually. I'm untangling something that had been tangled for years, and there's a satisfaction in that. The particular satisfaction of bringing order to chaos that I have been trained since childhood to find meaningful even when no one is watching. She checks in with me every 2 days. Brief, precise. She sits across from my desk and asks specific questions and writes the answers in a notebook by hand and thanks me and leaves. Once, on Thursday of the first week, she brings me a coffee without asking how I take it. It's exactly right. I don't comment on this. I should tell her about the diary. Every day I intend to tell her about the diary. Every day something else is more immediate and I don't. This is not, I acknowledge, purely logistical avoidance. Week 3. There is a reception for the Meridian counterparties, a thing I am explicitly not required to attend, but somehow end up attending because Celeste says it would be useful to have you there, and I have completely lost the ability to say no to that voice. The venue is the kind of place that exists to make people feel like money is a natural state. I wear my best blazer and feel like a field researcher at an exhibit I'm studying. The evening is fine until the man from Meridian's legal team, tall, beige, aggressively confident in the way of someone who has been told he's impressive too many times, starts talking to me near the bar. He's explaining something about golf. I'm nodding. My face is doing the appropriate social things. Then he says, quietly, conversationally, like it's a joke. You're the archivist, right? The one who found the discrepancy? Harlow's lucky she keeps people like you in the basement. Good to have someone in the machine room. Less visible that way? He's smiling. He expects me to smile back. I say, the discrepancy was in a 2019 addendum that should have been flagged by your firm's counsel before the deal closed. I found it in 3 months working alone. Your team had 6 years. The smile changes shape. I put my glass down and walk away. I walk directly into Celeste Harlow, who is standing 4 feet behind me and has evidently heard everything. Her expression is impossible to read. Everything about her is always impossible to read. She looks at me for a moment, that measuring look, and then past me at the man from Meridian. I'll deal with Carver, she says. Quiet. Not to me exactly. More like a thought she's having out loud. You don't need to... Nora... My name, in her voice, for the first time. You don't need to fix things for me, I say. A very long pause. No, she says. I know. I wanted to. I don't know what to do with that. I do not have a file for that. Week 4. I find the diary. Not in the cabinet. In my own bag, where I've been carrying it for 4 weeks, meaning to return it, which is the kind of lie you tell yourself when you know the truth and don't want to look at it directly. I am going through the bag for my transit card, and my fingers find the leather spine and I pull it out and I set it on the desk and I look at it. And then Celeste walks in. She stops. I watch her see the diary. I watch something shift behind her eyes. Recognition. Then something else. Something I can't name because I've never seen it on her face before. Where did you find that? Not a question. Cabinet row 7, I say. 11 weeks ago. Under the false bottom in the 3rd drawer. She doesn't move. I haven't read... I start. But I have read it. She knows I've read it. The particular way she's standing tells me she's calculating exactly how much I've read and what it means that I'm still here. I say, I read it. I'm sorry. I should have returned it the night I found it, and I didn't, and there isn't a version of explaining that which makes me look good. She crosses the room and picks up the diary from the edge of my desk. She doesn't open it. She just holds it, and I watch her hold it, and I understand, in a way that bypasses language and goes straight to somewhere in my chest, that she's been looking for this. "Why didn't you return it immediately?" she says. This is the question she asked weeks ago, the one I couldn't answer. I answer it now. Because the first line I read made me feel less alone than I felt in 2 years, and I knew returning it would mean pretending I'd never read it, and I wasn't sure I was capable of that. The silence is a specific kind of weight. She says, "Get out of my office." I leave. That evening, I receive an email from HR. The liaison assignment has been terminated effective immediately. I am returned to my previous role. Archive access restored, as agreed. I go back to the basement. I catalog things. I make coffee that no one thanks me for. Index comes to meet me at the door that night, and I sit on the floor with him for 20 minutes and don't explain anything because he is a cat and doesn't require explanation. The next morning, I send a formal apology by internal mail, 3 sentences. Professional. Accurate. I receive no response. 2 weeks pass. They pass with the particular efficiency of weeks during which you are working very hard not to feel anything complicated. I am extremely busy. I finish the Meridian inventory, which is both professionally satisfying and a practical cover for the fact that I'm spending 12 hours a day in a basement talking to no one. Priya from HR comes down on a Wednesday. This has never happened before. "I'm not here officially," she says. Noted. She sits on the edge of the desk across from mine. She's wearing the expression of someone who has prepared what she's going to say and then changed her mind 3 times on the way down. "She hasn't hired a replacement for your liaison role," Priya says. "She keeps saying she will. She doesn't." "That's not my business." "She asked me what your schedule looks like." I stop typing. "She asked me yesterday, and the day before, and last Thursday." "Priya, I'm just telling you what I know." She stands. She straightens her jacket. "She also had building services replace the cabinet row 7 false bottom with a proper shelf. Yesterday, personally requested the work order." She pauses. "I don't know why I'm telling you that. I think it means something. I don't know what." She leaves. I look at the wall. I look at it for a long time. The archive room on the 42nd floor is not technically public access. Researchers need to submit requests. The processing time is 2 to 3 weeks. I have the access codes. I go on a Saturday. The building is quiet on Saturdays, the kind of quiet that has texture. I take the elevator to 42 and I find her in the archive room, not at a desk, but standing in front of the shelf where cabinet row 7 lives, now with its proper insert instead of a false bottom. She knows someone came in. She would have seen the access log. She knew it was me. She didn't leave. She turns. For a moment, neither of us says anything. The rain is back, the same rain as always, doing the same thing to the glass. The city below is grey and enormous and indifferent, and we are 2 people in an archive on a Saturday. "I wanted to return it properly," I say. "To where I found it, now that it has a proper place." I put the diary on the shelf. She looks at it. She doesn't look at me yet. "The last entry," she says. "Did you read it?" "Yes." "Did you understand what I meant about losing something?" I think of the 3 sentences. The thing that might have been a thing or part of herself. The holding carefully and then not knowing where you put it. "I thought I did," I say. "I understood it differently by the time I found out it was yours." Now she looks at me. "How?" I take a breath. I thought it was about a person, and then I thought, it's about the diary itself. You were the thing you lost track of, the version of you that could write honestly about not knowing who you are. I pause. "I think you put it in a false bottom and forgot where the false bottom was." Silence. Then very quietly. "That's the most accurate thing anyone has ever said about me." She moves, not toward me. She crosses to the window, and I watch her look at the city, and I watch the city not give her anything back because cities don't. "I read your apology," she says. 3 sentences, very professional. "I meant all 3 of them." "I know. That's not the problem." She turns. "The problem is that you told me something true in my own office, and I threw you out because I didn't know what to do with it, and now I've been thinking about it for 2 weeks and I still don't fully know what to do with it. But I know that asking Priya about your schedule is not productive, and replacing the cabinet shelf is not a communication strategy. She says all of this with the same careful precision she uses in meetings, like she's presenting findings, like she's been rehearsing but the data still arrived before the theory. What would be a communication strategy? I say. She looks at me. I came back to the conference room 3 times after you left that first meeting, she says. Looking for you. You were already gone. A pause. I asked Priya your name the next day. She told me she'd sent me your memo 3 weeks before. A longer pause. I came down to the basement archives twice in October. You weren't there. I was at an off-site inventory in October. I know. I found out. Something moves across her face. Something I've seen before, in fragments, in almost moments. It resolves into something I didn't expect. Self-deprecation. Quiet. Real. I have 1,400 employees. You are the only one I've attempted to locate manually. Twice. While telling myself I had logistical reasons. I don't say anything. She crosses back toward the shelf. Toward me. She stops close enough that I can see the way she's breathing, slightly too controlled, like someone who has decided to stop controlling it and isn't sure how. You said the first line of my diary made you feel less alone than you had in 2 years, she says. That's what I've been thinking about for 2 weeks. Every day. She looks at me. I wrote that line at 4 a.m, sitting on my kitchen floor because I'd just gotten off a call with W. Her name is actually Ren. She's fine. It ended fine. I'm not going to make this a whole thing. And I realized I'd been performing being myself for so long I'd lost track of where the performance ended. She pauses. And then you walked into my conference room and told the truth to 12 people who didn't want to hear it. And you left before anyone could thank you. And you asked me to preserve the archive protocol as your only professional condition. And I thought... She stops. She looks away. She looks back. I thought, that's what it looks like. Someone who knows who they are. My heart does the thing it has been doing for weeks. Celeste, I know you read private things that weren't yours, she says quickly, like she needs to finish before she stops. I know that was a violation of my privacy, and I was right to be angry. I was also afraid of what it meant that you read them and stayed. And then I was more afraid of what it meant when I asked you to leave and you went. I step forward, not much, just enough. I stayed, I say, because the woman in those entries was someone I recognized, before I knew it was you, and then I knew it was you, and I stayed because of that too. She looks at me for a long moment. The city behind her is gray and rain-streaked and completely irrelevant. You're going to make this very difficult for me, she says. You're a CEO, I say. You like difficult problems. The almost something on her face finally resolves. It's a smile, not the one she wears in meetings, not the one in the press photos, the one underneath those, smaller, more crooked, slightly surprised at itself. She says, stay. Not a command this time, an ask. I stay. The window is still raining on, the city is still enormous, and something that has been waiting, very patiently, for exactly this configuration of 2 people in an archive on a Saturday, opens. 3 months later, the Meridian remediation is complete. I present the final report in the same conference room where I first opened my mouth. 12 faces again, different energy. Celeste is at the head of the table. She doesn't look at me during the presentation. She doesn't need to. She's read every version of this document at my kitchen table, with Index sitting on her laptop. Afterward, in the elevator, she says, You left out the part where the 2019 addendum was found under a false bottom. It was found during standard inventory protocols. That's not what happened. That's what happened officially. She considers this. You're going to be very good at this job, she says. I'm an archivist. You're someone who reads things carefully and tells the truth about what they say. She looks at me. Among other things, the elevator opens to the 42nd floor. Her coffee is already on my desk. It's exactly right. It's been exactly right every morning for 3 months. I stopped not commenting on it after the first week. Marcus from Legal is apparently still job searching after the Meridian debrief. I didn't have anything to do with that. Officially. His replacement sent me a birthday card last Tuesday, first one I've ever received here. It had a cat on it. Celeste denied all knowledge. Her handwriting is very recognizable. If you've ever found something that wasn't yours, and it turned out to be exactly what you needed, comment below, subscribe, and hit the bell. New stories every week, because every archive has a false bottom, and sometimes what's underneath changes everything.